I think that when you look at somebody like Modi, what you're looking at is somebody who is trying to usher in, by his very person, a kind of fundamental transformation of the society. Whether you like it or not, Modi is trying to, in a sense, remake the Indian narrative, which is focused much more on a kind of Hinduism first, or call it what you will, a Hindutva agenda. And in that sense, he does resemble, somebody like a Trump or a Bolsonaro. Erdogan is probably the closest analogy that I would say. Erdogan came to power believing that Turkey had been ruled too long by a kind of urban cosmopolitan elite, that he was going to provide a new narrative for Turkey, one much more infused with religion. And what Erdogan and Modi have in common is they're also in their own way modernizers. They also want to ride the wave of technology, of economics. They're not backward looking in that sense. They are more than willing to embrace the revolutions of the present that are transforming the country. They also want to engage in a political transformation that accompanies those, that gets rid of the old sources of identity, the old, if you will, kind of narrative, and put a new one in place. So it's simultaneously, it's in some ways a kind of forward-looking new narrative, but of course it in some ways harkens back to, I would argue, an imagined past, but in any event to some idea of, a purer India.
I now want to dip into some of what Fareed's written in his book, and I want to start with where you write about growing tribalism and the revenge of the tribe. How culture, class, tribalism is what makes people decide who they wish to vote for. Now, when you apply that, Fareed, in the Indian context, we've seen what's happened in the past 10 years, but you're also in your book trying to look into the future. Give everyone sitting here and watching you across the India Today network a sense of, the revenge of this tribe, the idea that we've been left out, which is why Prime Minister Modi is as popular as he is. How does this apply at the moment and going forward, Fareed?
Sure. Let me give you an example to make the point of the rise of culture and cultural identity, and this, as you say, cultural sense of dispossession or marginalization. So Joe Biden currently has the lowest approval ratings of any president in American history. Ordinarily, people always believed that a strong economy meant a president had strong approval ratings. That's why, if you remember, the slogan of Bill Clinton's election campaign was, "It's the economy, stupid." And the truth is, Biden is presiding over possibly the strongest American economy in decades. Unemployment is basically at a 50-year low. Inequality, which was considered the big issue, has been falling now for 4 years. Manufacturing employment is up. Employment in every sector is up. Inflation is down to 3%. It's difficult to find a statistic that is not there. To give you a couple just to show you how powerfully the United States is doing in today's world. In 2008, the Eurozone economy and the American economy were the same size. Today, the American economy is 2 times the size of the Eurozone economy. If Great Britain, India's former colonizing power, were to join the United States as the 51st state of America, it would be the 51st poorest state in America. It ranks below Mississippi, which is the poorest American state in per capita income. And yet, Biden has the lowest approval ratings of any president in American history. Why? Because we have entered an age of cultural politics where what matters is not so much economics and much more this sense of how do I define myself in today's world? Who am I? And in those criteria, there are a large number of people who feel that this world dazzling with technology, with strong economic growth, is leaving them behind, has left them behind. And that's why issues like immigration and what is so-called woke agenda have become so important. That is, it's the rise of this cultural politics. Now, in India, it applies again somewhat unevenly because India is, of course, a much poorer country, and so is still moving up the economic chain. But you still have, as I say, this idea of the rise of the previously marginalized, the people who were seen as less central to the narrative, who now feel that in Modi they have their standard bearer. And that has been his appeal. The real challenge will be, in India you still have to deliver economically, and Modi has done a lot, but there are many gaps, unemployment being probably the single biggest gap. And how will all this play in the Indian context is a little difficult to tell. One thing I'll say about the Indian, again, I'm watching it from outside, but his first election, there was a wave of change. There was a sense that people wanted change from the Congress coalition. The second one, of course, was consumed with nationalism and anti-Pakistani nationalism. I don't feel that there are those, this doesn't feel as strong in terms of a wave for Prime Minister Modi as those previous ones. If you were to have to characterize what is the wave that is going to propel Modi to 400 seats, I'm not sure what simple phrase I would use in the way I could for the first two. Change in the first one, anti-Pakistani Indian nationalism on the second one. I'm not sure what this one would be.